And then this is Elvis's black box, which was basically like his purse.
Really? What's in here?
Riley Keough just shattered everything we thought we knew about Elvis Presley and Graceland. And what she's revealing is absolutely mind-blowing. When Lisa Marie Presley died unexpectedly in January 2023, her daughter Riley inherited something that no one outside the Presley family has ever fully understood. Not just Graceland itself, but the dark secrets hidden behind those locked doors on the second floor. And what Riley discovered when she finally gained complete access has left even longtime Elvis insiders completely stunned. For over 4 decades, that upstairs area has been completely off limits to the public. We've all been told it's about privacy, about respecting Elvis's memory. But Riley's recent statements suggest there's something much deeper going on here, something the Presley family has been desperately trying to keep buried. Think about this for a second. Elvis died in 1977. That's almost 50 years ago. Yet his bedroom, his private bathroom, his personal spaces remain locked away like some kind of crime scene. Why? What could possibly be so sensitive that even today, with Elvis long gone and most of his generation passed away, these rooms still can't be seen by anyone? Riley grew up visiting Graceland, but always with restrictions, always with certain doors that stayed closed, certain conversations that got cut short when she got too curious. She's talked about how the house felt full of family during those visits, but there were always these invisible boundaries, areas that were simply forbidden. But now, she's the owner. She holds the keys to everything, and for the first time in her life, Riley Keough has had unlimited access to every single room, every closet, every hidden corner of Elvis Presley's private world. What she found has completely changed her understanding of her grandfather. Not just the man, but the final years of his life, the real dynamics of the Presley family, and the carefully constructed image that's been sold to the world for decades. You see, we've always been told that Elvis was this generous, loving family man who shared Graceland with everyone, that he was happy to show off his home to visitors. But Riley's discoveries suggest that Elvis's relationship with that house, especially in his final years, was far more complicated and disturbing than anyone ever admitted. The upstairs wasn't just Elvis's private sanctuary, it became his prison, a place where he retreated from a world that had become too overwhelming, too demanding, too fake. But it was also where some of the most devastating moments in Presley family history played out, moments that explain so much about why Lisa Marie struggled the way she did, why the family has been so fractured, why there have been so many battles over Elvis's legacy. Riley has been unusually quiet about the specifics of what she's found, but those close to her say she's been visibly shaken by some of her discoveries. We're talking about someone who grew up in Hollywood, who's seen the dark side of celebrity culture, who thought she understood what her family had been through. But whatever she found in those upstairs rooms has hit her on a completely different level. The official story has always been that the upstairs remains closed because of logistics. Too many visitors, not enough space, concerns about preserving the original structure. But Riley's inheritance has given her access to family documents, personal records, and private conversations that paint a very different picture. She's learned things about her grandfather's final months that cast his death in an entirely new light. She's discovered family secrets that explain decades of dysfunction and conflict. And she's uncovered evidence of manipulation and betrayal within the Presley inner circle that goes far beyond anything the public has ever suspected. The most shocking part? Riley is seriously considering breaking the family's decades-long silence. She's talking about opening those upstairs rooms, not for tours, but to finally tell the truth about what really happened in Elvis Presley's final years. But here's what makes this even more explosive. Riley's discoveries don't just change how we see Elvis. They reveal how certain family members have been using these secrets for their own benefit for decades. How the carefully maintained mystery around Graceland's second floor has been a tool for manipulation and control. And if Riley decides to expose everything she's found, it won't just shock Elvis fans. It could completely destroy the Presley family legacy as we know it. What Riley uncovered about her grandfather's final years is absolutely devastating, and it starts with the most traumatic day in Presley family history. August 16, 1977. Lisa Marie Presley was just 9 years old when she heard the commotion from her bedroom at Graceland. Her room was positioned right next to Elvis's bathroom, and she knew immediately that something was terribly wrong. But what Riley has learned about that day goes far beyond the official story we've all been told. Lisa Marie spent decades carrying the weight of what she witnessed, what she heard, what she knew about her father's final moments. But she never told the complete truth, not to the media, not to biographers, not even to her own children. Until now, Riley had no idea just how much her mother had been protecting her from.
You see, Elvis's death wasn't the sudden, unexpected tragedy that's been portrayed for decades. According to Riley's discoveries, there were warning signs that the family ignored. There were desperate attempts to get Elvis help that were blocked by people who had too much to lose if he got clean. And there were family members who were more concerned about their own financial security than Elvis's well-being. The upstairs at Graceland had become a fortress of denial. Elvis was spiraling and everyone around him knew it. But instead of intervention, there was enablement. Instead of tough love, there was protection of the cash flow. Elvis Presley had become a prisoner in his own home, surrounded by people who needed him sick and dependent to maintain their own lifestyles. Riley's investigation into family documents has revealed something that will shock even the most dedicated Elvis fans. Her grandfather's final years weren't just about prescription drug abuse. They were about systematic manipulation by people who were supposed to care about him most. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, was in way over his head financially. The expenses of maintaining Graceland, supporting an enormous entourage, and funding Elvis's increasingly erratic lifestyle were bleeding the estate dry. But Vernon had grown accustomed to a certain standard of living. So had everyone else in the Elvis organization. And they all knew that a clean, sober Elvis might start asking uncomfortable questions about where all the money had gone. Priscilla's role in this whole situation is even more complex than anyone realized. While she's been portrayed as the voice of reason trying to help Elvis, Riley's discoveries suggest a much more calculated approach. Priscilla was building her own empire, positioning herself as the keeper of Elvis's legacy while he was still alive. She needed Elvis to remain the tragic, larger-than-life figure because that's what would sell records, merchandise, and eventually access to Graceland. But here's the part that's absolutely heartbreaking. Elvis knew. He knew he was being manipulated. He knew that the people around him were more interested in his bank account than his well-being. And he knew that his own family was complicit in keeping him trapped in a cycle of addiction and isolation. Riley has found evidence that Elvis tried multiple times to get clean, to break free from the pharmaceutical cocktail that was slowly killing him. But every time he made progress, every time he started to regain some clarity, there was always someone there to pull him back in. Someone who reminded him of his obligations, his responsibilities, his need to keep performing and keep the money flowing. The most devastating discovery? Elvis's own father was among those who actively discouraged his recovery attempts. Vernon Presley was so dependent on his son's earnings that he couldn't risk Elvis getting healthy enough to take control of his own affairs. This is what Lisa Marie lived with. This is what she saw as a child. Her father wasn't just struggling with addiction, he was being systematically destroyed by the people who claimed to love him most. And when she inherited Graceland, she made the decision to keep those upstairs rooms locked, not just for privacy, but because she couldn't bear the thought of strangers walking through the spaces where her father had suffered so much. But Riley's investigation has uncovered something even more shocking. The family's cover-up didn't end with Elvis's death. It continued for decades, with different family members using pieces of the truth as leverage against each other. Secrets became weapons. Silence became currency. And the real story of Elvis Presley's final years became buried under layers of lies, manipulation, and self-preservation. Now Riley faces an impossible choice. She can maintain the family's decades-long silence and protect the carefully constructed Elvis mythology. Or she can finally tell the truth about what really happened in those upstairs rooms, knowing that it will devastate everything the world believes about the king of rock and roll. And what she's discovered about the ongoing betrayals within her own family might force her hand in ways she never expected. When Riley Keough first walked into Elvis's bedroom as the official owner of Graceland, she expected to find a shrine. What she discovered instead was evidence of a massive deception that's been going on for almost 50 years. The room itself told a story that no one had been allowed to hear. While the public areas of Graceland have been carefully maintained and restored, Elvis's private spaces revealed the truth about his final months. Prescription bottles that were never cleaned out, personal notes that were never meant to be seen, and most shocking of all, recording equipment that Elvis had been using to document his own thoughts during his darkest hours. Riley found hours of audio recordings that Elvis made in private, talking about his fears, his suspicions about the people around him, and his growing awareness that he was being systematically destroyed. These aren't the rambling thoughts of someone lost in addiction. These are the clear, coherent observations of a man who knew exactly what was happening to him but felt powerless to stop it. In one particularly devastating recording, Elvis talks about how he tried to fire members of his inner circle who were pushing drugs on him, only to have his father Vernon intervene and reinstate them. He describes feeling like a prisoner in his own home, surrounded by people who smiled to his face while planning his destruction behind his back. But the recordings revealed something even more sinister. Elvis had been building a case. He was documenting everything: the financial irregularities, the prescription drug schemes, the family members who were stealing from him. He was planning to clean house completely and start over with people he could actually trust. The problem was, he ran out of time. Riley's discovery of these recordings has completely reframed everything we thought we knew about Elvis's death. This wasn't a tragic accident or the inevitable result of addiction. This was the silencing of someone who was about to expose a massive conspiracy that went all the way to the top of his own family. And that's when Riley made her most shocking discovery. Hidden in Elvis's personal safe, she found documents that revealed the true scope of the financial manipulation that had been going on for years. Vernon Presley hadn't just been mismanaging Elvis's money, he'd been systematically stealing it along with several key members of the Memphis Mafia. We're talking about millions of dollars that had been siphoned away through fake contracts, inflated expenses, and outright theft. Elvis had figured it out. He had the evidence, and he was planning to take legal action that would have sent his own father to prison. But here's where it gets even more twisted. Riley found correspondence between Vernon and other family members discussing what they called the Elvis problem. They knew he was getting close to exposing them. They knew that if he got clean and took control of his affairs, they would all be finished. So they made sure he never got the chance. The prescription drugs weren't just about keeping Elvis manageable, they were about keeping him quiet. Every time he started making progress towards sobriety, every time he began asking difficult questions about his finances, there was always someone there to make sure he got pulled back into the fog of medication and confusion. Riley also discovered that this pattern of financial manipulation didn't end with Elvis's death. It continued with Lisa Marie. The same people who had been stealing from Elvis turned their attention to his estate, using their positions of trust to continue looting the Presley fortune for decades.
Lisa Marie's struggles with addiction, her financial problems, her multiple failed marriages. Riley has discovered evidence that many of these weren't just personal failings. They were the result of deliberate sabotage by people who needed Lisa Marie to remain unstable and dependent so they could continue controlling the Elvis estate. But here's the part that's going to destroy everything. Riley found documents proving that Priscilla has been actively working with some of the same people who were stealing from Elvis while he was alive. The conspiracy didn't end with his death. It evolved, with Priscilla taking over as the mastermind. For decades, she's been telling the world that she's the protector of Elvis's legacy, the one person who truly understood him and wants to preserve his memory. But the truth is, she's been systematically destroying that legacy from within, turning Elvis into a brand to be exploited rather than a person to be remembered. And the most sickening part? She's been using Elvis and Lisa Marie's deaths as marketing opportunities. Every anniversary, every documentary, every new revelation about the family has been carefully orchestrated to generate maximum profit while revealing just enough truth to satisfy public curiosity without exposing the real crimes. Riley's evidence shows that Priscilla has been sitting on explosive information about Elvis's final years for decades, using it as leverage against other family members and business partners. She's known about the financial theft, the systematic drugging, the conspiracy that led to Elvis's death. But instead of seeking justice, she turned that knowledge into power. Riley's discoveries expose a massive conspiracy involving entertainment industry figures, lawyers, and celebrities who've profited from Elvis's death for 50 years while covering up the truth. The legal ramifications could include criminal charges and lawsuits worth hundreds of millions. Most shocking, these schemes are still active today. Riley faces an impossible choice between family loyalty and justice. If she reveals everything, it will completely rewrite Elvis's story and destroy powerful people who've built empires on lies. The question that will define the Presley legacy forever: will she finally give Elvis the truth he never got while alive? What do you think Riley should do? Choose family loyalty or expose the truth that could destroy the Elvis legacy forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more shocking celebrity family secrets that will blow your mind, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell right now.